President Obama was very welcome in Brazil. He was already the most popular foreign leader in Brazil before he arrived, as he is in many countries. The visit went well. They reset the relationship. They opened a new space for cooperation on real things, such as the ones that President highlighted. Whether it's happening, it will happen or not, really depends on, people working hard now to make things happen.
Geoff Thale, is this really a matter of the United States having to get used to Brazil being a big power?
Well, I think that is one of the major transitions. I mean, traditionally, the United States has acted or talked about Latin America as its backyard. President Obama came in saying he was no longer going to do that. And I think one of the he has to change because the region has changed. Brazil in particular is becoming a world power and a major player internationally. And that's true of other countries in the region as well. So we're no longer in a position, the United States is no longer in a position where it can treat Latin America the way it traditionally did. And it's working to try and President Obama is intending to try and reset that relationship more broadly.
Sergio, Bitar, what about the other countries in the continent? When they look at Brazil, is everybody comfortable and on board with Brazil as an emerging power?
Well, you have to realize that that's a locomotive for South America. So we in Chile or other countries, we say we have to get over that train because they will push, as well as China, for Latin America. So the future has, for many countries of Latin America, two locomotives. China on the one side in Asia, Brazil on the other, in addition to what has been the US and Europe in the past. So that's the dynamics of the future. So I think that the visit, what is important is not how much it came out in the press, because sometimes I think no news, good news. So, but what is beyond the press is important, and you have 50 million Latinos here in the United States, and you have more than 500 million inhabitants in Latin America. So for the future, those are very important factors to show where things are going and how and why, for the US, strategically, Latin America is critical in terms of democracy, in terms of oil, in terms of markets.
Eric Farnsworth, we saw Dilma Rousseff nodding when President Obama was extolling the growth of the Brazilian middle class. At another time in her life, she would have been talking about class struggle, not a growing middle class. Does the change in Dilma Rousseff sort of symbolize part of the change in Latin America?
Well, I think it really does. She, in some ways, is an example of what the aspirations of the Brazilian people have been for a long time and what Brazil itself is achieving. It's a remarkable story of somebody who was an organizer and somebody who was actually persecuted by the military regime, tortured, took a future in politics, became the first woman president of the country. Really a remarkable personal story, but in the broader context, absolutely. You see a country and a region that is simply being transformed. It's not the same region as it even was 5 years ago, much less 10 years ago. Brazil is a locomotive. The rest of the region is also coming along. It's really fascinating. And I want to pick up on something that Sergio said with reference to the idea that Latin America needs to be seen from Washington more as a strategic partner, and I really believe that to be true. And let me give you a specific example. Before President Obama went to Brasilia, U.S. Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner also went to Brazil and sat down and met with senior Brazilian officials to talk about things like common actions with reference to the Chinese currency issue. This is a strategic issue for the United States, and it's really a new day when the U.S. Treasury Secretary is going to Brazil to talk about a China issue. And it shows a couple things. It shows the importance of Brazil on its own, but it also shows, I think, a recognition from Washington that Latin America has to be more than a rhetorical partner. It has to be a partner in actuality. And I think you're going to see this sort of relationship build through the coming months, and it will be quite interesting to see how that evolves.
The idea of having to get used to a Brazil and get used to a South America that doesn't use the United States as its spokesman in world affairs, I think there's going to be some growing pains there. When Lula was in Copenhagen for the big climate conference, he was throwing his weight around like a serious world statesman, and I don't think everybody was ready for that. He was in the final councils that were hammering out the deal, such as it was. It wasn't a great deal. It didn't change very much about the climate, but it also showed, hey, we punch our weight. We're a big, important, strong, wealthy country.
Ray, the secret here is how to calibrate that, because you can overreach also. And there has been a discussion in Brazil about that. For instance, the Iranian episode was a typical case. And in Brazil, yes, everybody has to learn. The United States has to learn that Brazil is a country that defines a space. Brazil is not in Latin America. Brazil is in Brazil as much as China is in China. And that is, it takes some thinking and some getting used to understand this. Brazil at the same time has to learn how to be a regional leader. Brazil is, I think, a regional power. Being a regional leader will require more work because we are, for instance, now 60% of the economy of South America, projected to be 70%. Current projections say that. Now, we will have to be very intelligent and share prosperity in order to continue to grow. And this is the type of the language that we use. We are not used to dealing with the neighbors. There are some people in the elites in Brazil, on the center left, that, for instance, have a great attachment to Chile because Chile was the country of exile for a lot of important Brazilians, start with former President Cardoso. But most Brazilians really don't know much about the region. And this is, again, the learning curve is steep for everybody.